You're listening to Kizuki, the podcast. I'm Mae Yoshikawa, and I define the Japanese concept of Kizuki as the following. Kizuki 1. A moment of epiphany, an aha of realization or insight which opens the knower to a new dimension of truth that was formerly unknown. 2. Steps in an incremental growth of awareness, resulting in a movement from ignorance to greater awareness of the bigger picture. A kind of knowing that cannot be undone, that cannot be unrealized. As a longtime yoga and meditation practitioner, a world traveler, and curious self-explorer, I'm obsessed with Kizukis. Listen on each week for inspiring and enlightening stories that may just tip you over for your next aha. On this week's episode, the power beyond yourself. I want to tell you guys this crazy story, and it's a true story. I grew up going to an international school in Tokyo, and my school was a small school, and it was actually a Christian school, and they had this really interesting, different activity that they would do each year for the class that was freshly beginning their freshman year in high school. So ninth graders, first semester, like towards the end of first semester. No, maybe middle of first semester. So it was like 2 months into your first year in high school. And it was called the Wilderness Camp, but all of the students called it Stress Camp. Now, what they would do is that the school would separate the class into cohorts of about 6 to maybe 8 people, and each group would have one adult teacher and one sub-teacher, like a counselor type, who was maybe a senior or a junior who had done the camp before, but isn't an adult yet. And it worked like this. We would all start in a different location on the hills deep in Okutama, which is a mountainous, forested area in the western region of Tokyo. And we would each carry in our backpack whatever minimal necessities, such as clothing. We'd carry our own food and water and some tin can to help us build a fire and, maybe cook some food on it. And we didn't even carry a tent. We would carry a plastic sheet with ropes. So when night falls, we would put this sheet on 4 different trees, diagonally, slightly slanted, so that the rain wouldn't puddle on the sheet, and sleep underneath it. So as you can imagine, it was pretty wild and raw and cold and hard and challenging. And the entire journey was, I believe it was 4 nights, 5 days. And the way that it worked was that each cohort would be given one map and one compass. And basically, each group is dropped off on a way different location around the surrounding area of the mountain, so we wouldn't see each other. But 4 days, 5 days later, we are all due to arrive at this summer camp facility on the same day. Now, these are 9th graders. So as you can imagine, we do stupid stuff. Like back in the day, we had CD Walkman. People would want to bring their Walkman and their batteries and make their backpacks heavy. Some people would even get homesick. Some people just weren't very athletic and found the hike and the trek for extended lengths of time very, very challenging. And gosh darn it, some people just didn't know how to read a map. And it was so hard because I think there were like 7 or 8 people in my group. And we had this rule where every hour or two, the map and compass would be in the hands of someone else. And so if the leader with the map and compass, the leader would have to lead the group and everyone else would have to follow. No questions. No backseat driving, right? So if the leader couldn't read a map and was guiding us in the wrong direction and everyone knew it, but the leader didn't think so, we would all have to follow. Obviously, there was a lot of complaining. There were some arguments and some fighting, especially as people got hungry, especially the boys, and people got hangry. Oh man, things got raw, right? I remember the time in my group where it was like dinner time and we'd turn these tin cans. They were from the cafeteria, those large tin cans that used to contain ketchup or something in it. We washed it out, turn it upside down, put it over an open fire, and cook eggs and like noodles and stuff on it. Instant noodles. But one time, so each mealtime, there would be like 2 people that's in charge of preparing the food for the group. But this one time, one girl dropped the food, our very precious minimal food, and ruined some of it. So it wasn't edible. And a couple of the boys in my group just got so pissed off because they were so hungry. And as you can imagine, things got a little aggressive and people were about to fight and somebody else would have to come in and try to break the fight. But the idea is that the group learned to work with one another and support one another. And the teacher and the counselor that's supporting the group is really just taking an observer role and seeing how a group of kids, young adults, just in high school, would cope with the challenges of 4 nights, 5 days, traveling through the wilderness and not knowing what was going to happen next. And it was really hard. But as I look back on that time, I can honestly say that it was one of the most defining experiences of my young life that really showed me. It didn't teach me like the way textbooks and books do. It showed me in raw human form something about human psychology, human behavior, how people act and react towards each other, how people treat each other when they're hungry or angry or sad. And it showed me things about pure compassion and kindness. Because there was this one boy who was especially angry about the food that was spilled because he was so hungry. And he was very upset. And that night he went to sleep very upset. But the next morning, when the girl who had spilled the food and had nothing to say but sorry to the entire group, she was so exhausted and so tired the next day that she wasn't making very good progress on the trail. And her backpack was too heavy. He offered to carry her backpack for her. And there was very little communication. It wasn't like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgive you, let's chat, let's have this conversation. No, it was just this raw animal to animal, hey, we're in it together, so might as well support you kind of a thing. And it taught me so much about the power of working together. It's so easy for all of us, especially in modern urban life, to lead pretty independent, somewhat solitary lives. Even as we live in big apartment buildings or go to schools and go to work with many people in it, we're not necessarily encouraged or challenged to work together in society with others, and especially with others that aren't like us, that we might not even like. Because if we wanted to, we could spend decades avoiding such occurrences. But at the end of those 4 nights and 5 days, when we arrived at the campgrounds and finally had our hot showers, there wasn't just a sense of relief and, getting hot, warm, good food. There was a sense of accomplishment. We did it, and we did it together. So for the rest of the semester and for the rest of the freshman year, even though we went back to our lives in school and kids in different cliques and different interests, there was this unspoken, deep felt sense of respect. Hey, I might not like you, but I can appreciate you for who you are. I can appreciate your existence. So there was very little bullying or disrespect in our school halls. As I look back upon that time now from my adult perspective, it means so much to me because now I'm here, I'm building a community, and I like to challenge people to come together, not just in our similarities, but even more so in our differences. And it's that level of diversity that really challenges us psychologically and emotionally to move beyond ourselves and to come to acceptance, to come to peace with the aspects of ourselves and also with the aspects of others that we might not even like or that might make us uncomfortable. That we can still come to acceptance of it and come to peace and come to respect it, that it still deserves a role in our hearts and in our society. I am, day after day, truly amazed and appreciative of the power of community. My community now supports me and uplifts me now more than ever in my life. And I also see that happening with the members of my community, with each other. And I just love and appreciate that so much. So take with you this power beyond yourself and know that it's actually at work in the most challenging moment of our lives. Thank you for listening. Learn more about me in my upcoming book, Kizuki, Realizations Beyond Time and Death, at my website, maey.live, or find me on Instagram at maeyoshiKawa.